All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about something, well, something pretty mind-blowing. It's a brand new discovery that draws this incredible line between the AI in our devices and the actual wetware inside our heads. Have you ever stopped to think about how this works? How a stream of sounds, just vibrations in the air, magically turns into a whole story inside your mind? It's one of the biggest mysteries in neuroscience, and we've been trying to crack it for ages. You see, for the longest time, scientists have been arguing about how our brains actually build meaning from words. It all happens so fast, right? It's so seamless that trying to map out the brain's step-by-step process has been, well, a huge challenge. So there were basically two camps. The traditional way of thinking, this symbolic model, saw language as this rigid set of grammar rules. Like those sentence trees you might remember from school. But now there's a new player in town, straight out of the world of AI. It's a completely different approach, based on these flexible, number-based representations that get context. Yeah, we're talking about the tech that powers large language models, or LLMs. Okay, so when we think of LLMs, we're usually thinking about chatbots, right? Or tools that can write an email for you. But what if they're more than that? I mean, what if their very design, their architecture, is actually a blueprint for how our own brains work? That's the wild idea we're diving into. And the secret sauce here is something called contextual embeddings. So forget what you know about dictionary definitions. An embedding isn't a word, it's a long string of numbers, a vector, that captures a word's vibe based on all the other words around it. So the word bank gets a totally different string of numbers if it's next to river than if it's next to money. It's all about context. So an LLM takes these number vectors and feeds them through a whole series of layers. Think of it like an assembly line for meaning. Each layer takes the output from the one before it, tweaks it, refines it, adds more and more context, until out pops this really sophisticated understanding of the word. So how do you test if this AI blueprint actually matches the human brain? Well, you put it to the test. This is where things get really cool. Researchers had this big what-if moment. What if the brain's process for understanding, which happens over time, what if that maps directly onto an LLM's process, which happens across its digital layers? Is there a connection? So they set up this incredible experiment. They worked with 9 patients who already had electrodes placed right on the surface of their brains for medical reasons. This technique is called ECoG, and it gives you this super precise, real-time picture of what the brain's doing. These patients just listened to a 30-minute story, and at the same time, the researchers fed that exact same story into a couple of powerful LLMs. And this is where the magic really happens. For every single word the patient heard, the researchers grabbed its numerical signature, that embedding we talked about, from every single layer of the AI. And here's the key part. They then tried to use the AI's data from all those different layers to see if it could predict the brain's actual electrical signals, moment by moment. Could the bot predict the brain? And what they found? Well, it wasn't just some vague connection. It was this beautiful, almost perfect alignment between the artificial neural network and the biological one. It was wow. So the question they were asking was really simple when you boil it down. Does the AI's layer-by-layer process match the brain's second-by-second process? Would the AI's early simple layers predict the brain's early activity? And would its deeper, more complex layers predict what the brain was doing a few milliseconds later? Is there a direct link between the AI's depth and the brain's timing? And boom, the first results were amazing. Each colored line you see here is a different layer in the AI. And just look at how the peak of each curve, that's the point where it best predicts the brain's activity, is just slightly shifted in time. The early layers, the reds and yellows, they peak first. And the deeper layers, the greens and blues, they peak later. You can literally see it unfold. But this is the money shot. When they plotted the AI's layer number on one axis against the time of the brain's peak activity on the other, they got this, an almost perfectly straight line. It's just undeniable. The deeper the AI has to go to process a word, the later the corresponding brain signal shows up. It's a lockstep sequence. So just how strong is this connection? Well, in a key language area of the brain, the inferior frontal gyrus, the correlation was R equals 0.85. Now, for anyone who does statistics, you know that is an incredibly strong link. It's not a coincidence, it's a real, significant pattern. I mean, the researchers themselves put it perfectly. They concluded that the AI's layered spatial setup
can be used as a direct model for the temporal dynamics, the way things happen over time, inside our own heads when we're understanding language.
Okay, so this is huge, but it begs the question, right? Is this happening all over the brain, or is it just in the specific parts that are designed for language? Let's find out.
So it turns out this amazing alignment isn't a whole brain thing, not at all. It was really concentrated in these high-level language centers, like this red area here, the inferior frontal gyrus, or IFG, which is home to the famous Broca's area. That's language central.
And this table just makes it crystal clear. You look at the fancy language areas, the IFG, the aSTG, the temporal pole, and the correlation is super, super strong. We're talking 0.85, 0.92, 0.93. But then you look at a region like the MSTG. That's an earlier pit stop for sound processing. And there, nothing. The correlation is basically zero. That part of the brain is just hearing the raw sounds. It's not building the deep meaning yet, so the pattern isn't there.
So what's the big takeaway here? It tells us that when you hear a word, your brain's language centers don't just get it in one go. Instead, they run it through this sequence of calculations, this cascade of transformations, all happening in just a few hundred milliseconds to build up the meaning. And here's the kicker. This biological sequence, this series of steps happening in your brain right now as you listen to me, it looks remarkably, spookily, similar to the layer-by-layer digital computations happening inside an AI. And just to really seal the deal, the team went back and compared this new LLM-based model to those old-school, rule-based symbolic models. The winner was clear. The AI framework was way, way better at explaining what the brain is actually doing moment to moment when it's processing language. And that leaves us with this one big, kind of provocative thought. For decades, we've been building AI by trying to copy the brain. But now, it seems like the tables are turning. If the design of an AI can mirror the brain's process for something as complex as language, you have to wonder, what other secrets of the human mind are we about to unlock with